The destruction of the Boy Scouts of America. It started in 2015. They've lost like a million of their kids, the young men. The left's goal was never to open up the Boy Scouts. It was to destroy the Boy Scouts. And they've succeeded in doing so. But what makes it even more troubling to me, in this segment, we're going to cover that. Biden, the latest on what's happening. I'm going to predict the trend line. It's going to be shocking in terms of what you're going to discover. I believe we're turning a corner in America because the truth is coming out like an avalanche. But this Boy Scouts thing is where I want to go right now, because I found out that the corporations are dominating the progressive boards that are destroying these organizations. And to my surprise, the CEO of AT&T is one of the leading corporate executives, and he's lobbying against a Texas bill to protect the privacy of your girls from boys in the restrooms and in the showers. And for them to be meddling like that in Texas, protection of children, and pushing the agenda that they've got with the Boy Scouts, this kind of woke advocacy at the corporate level has got to have pushback. And the pushback that I'm going to recommend is you need to go with alternative business sources. So, for instance, My Patriot Mobile. Let's bring that back up there in the lower third so I can see it. PatriotMobile.com/Lance. Use the code Lance and check out how you could check out of supporting AT&T and go with a more competitive, friendly mobile source that is reliable and that you're seeing conservatives all over the place moving to, because they take a percentage of their profits and put it into the very places that AT&T is trying to stop in Texas. So stand in the battle. We're doing this in every field. We're finding our businesses that we can support and sending a message. And you're going to have peace of mind, because every time you pay that AT&T bill, you're paying for this guy to fight against you. PatriotMobile.com/Lance. Get your discount. I'm just filling in here. I'm kind of like channeling my inner Rush Limbaugh, because I think he would be all over this story regarding the Boy Scouts of America. You know, in 2015, what they decided that they were going to go open it up to the homosexual boys in the Boy Scouts, kind of killing the whole idea of the wholesome fathers training their sons on how to be responsible, courageous, disciplined, character, developed young men. I myself was a Boy Scout, and it would be hard to imagine what it would be like having the Boy Scouts as the LGBTQ community space.
This portion is too hot to handle for social media. Go to lancewallnow.com/podcast to listen to the entire show.
You're going to start to see, and I believe we're seeing already, the resurgence. During the Trump era, when ISIS got taken out, remember Obama running around for oh my gosh, for 8 years feeding ISIS until you had destabilized the entire Middle East, and the United States did nothing. It's kind of like defunding the police. We just we had a military watching. And then like 4 months, Trump says, what do we got to do to take out ISIS? Okay, do it. Take them out. Boom, done. No more ISIS. Remember, Obama was getting criticized, and he goes out there in front of the microphone and says, the U.S. military doesn't do pinpricks. Oh, yes, they do, under your leadership. Under your leadership, we had a Muslim surge, a wave of instability that rolled over Europe and redefined the cultural fault lines in Italy, France, Germany, and England. And then moving over to the Scandinavia countries, you got guys like Viktor Orban and some of the Eastern European folks that survived communism and said, we want borders. We want to preserve our culture. We want our families strong. We want to protect our kids against Western LGBTQ influence. So Viktor Orban becomes vilified in the West as a dictator. Why? Because he wasn't playing along with the globalist, perverse Marxist agenda, a weird synthesis of cultural Marxism, because economic Marxism, in the true style of Stalin and Mao, would pit economic classes against each other. But you can't do that in America, where you have a middle class. So they have to attack all middle class values, including the flag and the military and the Boy Scouts and patriotism. Well, you're going to start to see the cultural conflict, because if you're going to let Islam in Europe, and even in certain condensed areas like in Michigan or in Brooklyn, and you start pushing aggressively your LGBTQ agenda, well, you're going to get pushed back, as they're doing in the school boards right now in Michigan. In the areas that are heavily Muslim, they don't want their boys and girls exposed to drag queen hour. That ain't going to go down with Islamic culture. But it didn't surprise me here when I read an article that a shirtless man pumping gas in Brooklyn was stabbed to death by offended Muslim stranger. Now, that's an interesting title in Yahoo News. And so we're getting a Yahoo News title. Let me tell you what it actually is. It was not a shirtless man. It was, I'm going to read you the story, and then you could tell me what you think was really going on. A shirtless man whose friend was dancing exuberantly as they pumped gas at a Brooklyn Mobil station was stabbed to death by a stranger who said the man's antics were offensive to the killer's Muslim faith. I think you're going to see more of this type of cultural. You're not going to get it from Christians. Christians are, by our design, we're a tolerant and forgiving people. We don't go to the violence end of the spectrum. But the mayhem started when the victim pulled up to the Mobil gas station on Coney Island Avenue, near Avenue P in Midwood, about 11:15 Saturday. He and his 4 friends are all shirtless in swim trunks, and on this hot day of the year, and a friend of the victim in small, tight trunks, what was described as underwear, began dancing. That's when a group of men exiting the Mobil station started harassing the 28-year-old victim, clad in pink swim trunks that were like underwear, and his pals, according to Sumi Ullah, 32. They were saying, "We're Muslim. Don't do this in front of me." From that, I think it looks like a hate crime, said a witness. Nothing else was going on. They were just dancing. The guy was dancing in underwear, and the suspect was like, "Why are you dancing in your underwear?" Ullah says he believes the stabber was motivated by homophobia. Obviously, they are gay, and if they're dancing, what's the problem with that? One member of the victim's group walked up to the men, followed by 3 others. They exchanged heated words. Video obtained by the Daily News shows this dialogue. "You like girls. You look like you're into girls, but we're not into girls," said the victim's group. "We have our own life. We do whatever we want, and we're dancing. That's our life." Ullah said he convinced the 2 groups to calm down and told everyone to step away. But one of the men harassing the victim's group continued to use his cell phone to record the shirtless men as he cursed them and returned to his car. Well, that sparked the victim's group to return to the front of the store to argue some more with the man recording them. Now, instead of driving away, they went to go argue with, I guess, the Muslim guy. Ullah urged that the men to cool down, and the man recording the victim walked off through the parking lot, but the victim chased after him. Catch this, the victim chased after him, pink underwear victim, whatever, and he chased after him, and he was stabbed by the man who had been recording. The video shows the stabbing happened in a split second. The shocked victim still on his feet. As a crowd gathered around him, medics rushed the victim, stabbed in the torso, and his name was not immediately released. The killer ran off on Coney Island Avenue, has not been caught. They believe the suspect and his friends frequent a smoke shop down the block, but cops went down to the smoke shop, and they said there's nobody here connected to that. But what you're seeing here is the clash of civilizations. This is what Samuel Huntington wrote about years ago. It's when you have incompatible ideological worldviews that are hitting each other. But what you'll see here is without the glue of civility, without the glue, if you don't mind me saying so, of Christian civilization, what you have is the insensitivity of one group pushing another group, the intolerance of the other group pushing back, and the inevitable collision of this clash is going to be, I think, amplified. You're going to see more of this in France, more of this in England. I believe it's because these ideologies are getting more aggressive, and you need to understand that this is all part of what the Apostle Paul talked about. Realize that in the last days, perilous times, difficult times are coming because men are going to be lovers of themselves rather than lovers of God, willing to exercise self-control. We're losing the ability to have self-control. We're becoming an intolerant culture that silences or destroys opposition. And I don't think it has to be that way. I think there's a better way. When we come back, we're going to talk some more. Be right back. Hey, let's take a moment right here and talk about something. You know, these programs are actually paid for by sponsors. And so the one thing that I always do is try to pick the sponsors that have the greatest value. Those are the ones that I myself believe in. Now, the Birch Gold Group is one of those key sponsors, and I'll tell you why. The economy is the area that I'm the most concerned about in terms of instability in the future. Do you know that right now, China and Russia and India is meeting with Saudi Arabians and South Africans to create an alternative economy, to basically crush the dollar? This is going to have a massive effect on the stock market, on real estate. It'll be a real shaking. But you don't have to be shaken, because there's a way you can protect your retirement, your 401ks, your IRAs, by connecting them in with gold. Gold is unique in history in that it's a place of stored value. In fact, those BRICS nations of Brazil and Russia, India and China, they're going to be backing themselves with, guess what? Gold. So be smart. I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get a free information kit. Get knowledge, act quickly, don't wait. And they're going to be able to help you make a great decision on what to do. Remember, that information is free with no strings attached. Do it now, lancewallnau.com/Birch. Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. You know, it's a shame I have to go down these rabbit trails of telling you the state of the situation as the glue of Christian civility and influence begins to erode in the public square. We find intolerance and aggression multiplying. But I am confident that there is a movement happening that's pushing against it. Remember, they could try to silence you, but there's so many of us to silence that they're just finding that we're just popping up someplace else. We're talking. They cannot silence the truth. I do want to talk about how their efforts are to silence the truth. Oh, and how about Klaus Schwab? My friend Klaus Schwab and the global elites, they want to work on totally controlling, through corporations, speech, so that only approved speech can happen. Ben Shapiro has come out with listing who the global entities are, the businesses, once again, that want to demonetize and deplatform. Oh, not the Doc Martens of this world who are celebrating the mutilation of the female body on their sneakers, but conservative voices. You know how dangerous they can be. So I want to catch you up on this. Here we go, folks. Strap in your seatbelt. Shapiro explained Monday how the World Economic Forum, otherwise known as the WEF, not to be confused with the World Wrestling Federation, and the World Federation of Advertisers, there it is, not to be confused with the World Federation of Wrestlers, and NewsGuard, remember that word, NewsGuard, we're all working together to crack down on misinformation. I mean, after that COVID experience, we got to stop the misinformation or people are going to find out too much information. So they want to make sure that advertising is safe. So Shapiro has his Twitter. It used to be Twitter. Now we got to call that. What are we going to call it? An Xer? What's the adjective for a tweet? An X? I don't know if Elon's thought this one through. Anyway, hopefully Chelsea, our producer, can put this up for you in production. Here's how the World Economic Forum is quietly working to demonetize and deplatform right-of-center voices, using authoritarian tactics and hall monitor fact checkers. So the company's trying to control your mind. That's what they want to do. WFA represents 90% of global marketing communications. Oh, boy. Launched the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, GARM, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. Actually, it's, I say that it's not a GRA. I think it's the Stop Hearing Unmanageable Technology Upsetting Propaganda, otherwise known as Shut Up. That's what they should call it. It's an unholy alliance between huge advertisers and social media companies like Google. Oh, well, there's something I didn't expect. And China's TikTok. Well, you see, we can get along with our neighbors. We are the world. If Google can work with China in order to suppress your speech, I guess Fauci can work with China on coming up with bioweapons. We got Meta, Facebook, also and Instagram, which we know from their advertising of Doc Martin. And even Twitter/X and Snapchat are in on this one. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure Elon will have a comment on that. It helps identify so-called misinformation that's inappropriate for advertising support, we're going to cut off your finances. We're going to cut off your voice. You're going to play ball with us. We're in control. Well, Jim Jordan, while we have a few, thank God, 1 or 2, this is why you've got to get Congress by even 8. I'm happy to have 8. We don't have a red wave, but we have a little pink drizzle. I'll grab it. Jim Jordan subpoenaed officials from GARM and the WFA, saying that the two appeared to be facilitating collusion. Yeah, it's collusion for sure, in a manner that violates antitrust laws in the United States. But they're European. These are American corporations, however, utilizing control in global advertising and media. So they're trying to get around the United States. There are certain industries where a violation of antitrust law isn't going to result in a disaster. The left's increasing desire to monopolize news commentary isn't one of them. Well, I'll tell you what, man. The only way that you can stop this is by putting into government people that will crush this and expose it. That's why I'm not happy to hear DeSantis is not doing well. I don't want to see DeSantis end up becoming like Walker in Wisconsin, who is a great governor who ends up getting beat up on the national stage trying to run for president. We want all the fighters we've got, frankly, to survive and go in. So I want you to play this video. We got 6 minutes left in this segment. We got to run, but I want you to catch the heat is on. Are we going to see Biden accountable? How much more do we need to know? We found out there's 20 calls he was on. Do you understand? Devin Archer tells, here's the way that the game works. Hunter cues up the influence campaign. It's the brand. As I got access to the White House, my dad, there's a lot of influence. It pays to have. This is what the Clinton Foundation was all about. You're going to get, sure, you invest some money with me, but what you get is you get a lot of my brand equity, and you never know when you need a favor from Obama and Biden. You never know when you need a favor from the power of the United States. I'm here to sell that influence, and for a reasonable price. Oh, by the way, let me see if I get my dad on the phone. And then dad would say, hey, how you doing? Yep, see, it is my dad. He knows what we're doing. How you doing? How's the weather? Weather's fine. How's things going, son? Oh, things going. I got so-and-so here and so-and-so there. How you all doing? Well, okay. See you later. Boom. 20 calls where he did that. Now, he didn't have to talk business necessarily in the calls. We don't know what they talked about in the calls unless the calls were recorded. Maybe some of them were. But we know that he was calling in order to provide the brand endorsement for his son, and he had to be by a phone because the son needed his dad to be ready to talk to seal the deal that the old man and I are connected. So the House Oversight members confirmed President Biden was present during his son's foreign business calls. And so of course, the left is saying, yeah, but he didn't discuss business. No, I guess those 20 calls done with the business people present was just coincidental and just having to catch my dad. But the Bidens were in the actual business of influence peddling. And when you speak to over 20 times while you're doing business deals and you're on the phone, it does make you wonder. By the way, we don't have any evidence that he didn't talk and have lunch and meet with these guys. And more information is going to keep coming out. Because the whistleblower that came out of the IRS says, and here's the news you didn't hear. He says, we were blocked from the Department of Justice, the DOJ. We were told, don't do any inquiry that is going to expose anything that has to do with dad or the president or the vice president. In other words, all your questions have to be along a certain linear line. You cannot go there. So the whistleblower from the IRS says, now subpoena all of the witnesses, not just Devin Archer. Bring the other ones in. Bring them in because we were not allowed to do our job. So now you've got to do yours. Well, you know, when Biden was confronted with this, of course, his strategy will fail. You know what his strategy is? It's Trump. Trump. Go after Trump, not me. Everyone hates Trump. Trump. Talk about Trump. Our plan is to bring up Trump. Watch this.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
And so how do you know?
Here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. You should be asking him the question, why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened? That appears what happened. You should be looking at Trump. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum. And he's using the abuse of power and every element of the presidency to try to do something to smear me. Everybody looked at this, and everybody's looked at it and said there's nothing there. Ask the right question.
Mr. Biden,
Okay, so if you've never spoken to your son,
will he be impeached for this?
Depending on what the House finds, he could be impeached, but I'm not making that judgment now. The House should investigate it. The House should investigate.
Oh, they said over and over again on CNN, MSNBC, or MSLSD, they would say the walls are closing in on Trump. The threat to democracy. The walls are closing in on Trump. Folks, the walls are closing in on Joe Biden. And I believe that the smart money is already saying, we don't know if Kamala is ready for her national debut. But it doesn't matter. I mean, if they could put Pelosi and Feinstein and Biden and look at McConnell. If they could put these octogenarians, Americans, in office, there's a machinery out there that has such power that they put in the people that'll play ball with them. And so Kamala can't be written off just because so many people don't like her. But you got to keep an eye on Michelle Obama and Gavin Newsom and what's going to be coming out when they do their convention in Chicago. Why Chicago? I think you're going to see America get torqued up in a really painful way in the coming days, especially when they try to lock up Trump. But I'm going to give you a word from the Bible. That same chapter where I talked about difficult times shall come, the Apostle Paul said, Moses was confronted when he tried to free the Jewish people from Egypt by two individuals named Jannes and Jambres. They opposed him. They had depraved minds, but they failed. They will not make further progress. Their folly will be obvious. It's an interesting statement. Paul is saying that there are seasons of history where the opposition governmentally becomes so belligerent and it becomes so exposed that there's no further progress. I think we might see in America an exposing of the corruption at so many levels over the next 12 months that it will have a backlash way overdue and perhaps a reprieve for America. This is Lance Wallnau signing off the Lance Wallnau Show.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.
When I was in an island with Annabelle for vacation, we couldn't get Netflix, we couldn't get Amazon, we were really stuck. Loved the island. Then I found out about ExpressVPN with 94 countries with high-speed connections. And I realized that with one click, I could actually get access to servers and stuff outside of the limitation of where I was. But then I also discovered something. When you're going online, you're being exposed. We're finding out stories all the time about people being doxxed. I mean, it's a political agenda to find out personal information about you and expose it. But whether you're shopping or whether you're just connecting at a cafe or whether you're at the office, if you want to protect your identity, what you're doing, the websites you go to, the conversations you have, whether it's on a phone, a tablet, a computer, or just through a router, no matter where you are, you can expand the number of options you've got for what you get access to, and you could totally insulate and protect yourself with online privacy, security, and the best state-of-the-art encryption services. It's all through expressvpn.com/Lance. You go there and you're going to get 30, 60, or 90 days worth of free training. I guess it's a money-back guarantee and a trial. But I'm talking about lightning quick connectivity, multiple locations, the ability to go to all kinds of sites, regardless of the limitation of the local government or the local place. 160 locations in 94 countries, and all of it secure. No one can track you. That's what I love about ultra-fast, totally secure, global VPN. So go to, once again, expressvpn.com/Lance. Do what I do. Do what my staff does. Do what my friends do. And protect your privacy and expand your reach.